Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another backtesting video. So, kicking on from yesterday, I wanted to just touch back on the mistrade from yesterday. And it was extremely frustrating, that be true. And as I've said on many occasions, that this playlist of backtesting 2022 is sort of twofold, but primarily for selfish reasons. To be perfectly honest with you, I wanted to do this to help me enhance my trading models, my responsiveness into the market, being able to critique myself, track where I'm making mistakes, and ultimately look for continual improvement. That is the main aim, and hopefully taking you guys along on the ride where you'll be able to leverage some of the insights that I have or some of the findings that I pull out from the market that is ultimately going to help you guys improve within your own trading journeys as well. So touching back on let's go into full screen mode. Okay, there we go. So where did it go wrong? So after reanalyzing the video and various other things, so what we know is that we were looking. If we go out to the 4 hour, we're just going to touch on this very quickly, then we're going to kind of kick on. So we're looking at the 4 hour, and one of the things that you heard me note was around this BISI here, and NQ had a BISI as well, very slim BISI, whilst ES had this more noticeable BISI. So what we saw here, look at the bodies of the candles, was that ES was clearly unwilling to trade below here, whereas NQ was quite the opposite. So we could assume NQ was going to purge its liquidity whilst ES wasn't. So we could look at the BISI and the liquidity pool together, but ultimately either which way forming SMT. But more importantly, if we go down to if we look at the model itself, things are moving rather slowly on FX Replay's side, which is not good. Let's just give this a moment. I think we're coming back slowly. Okay, let me pause this here. As soon as we're back, then we'll resume. Okay, we're back. Now my machine doesn't sound particularly healthy, but nonetheless we're back. So looking at ES and NQ, purge liquidity here, on NQ. Oh, sorry, I've got NQ twice. Let's do that. Okay, so ES and NQ both purged the hourly liquidity pool here and here. Important for the model. Now, NQ did continue and purge this liquidity pool down here, which just adds additional context. But more importantly, NQ purged the previous day's low, right? So we've ticked the box there. Now, where it gets where we get into the meat of things here is on the M15. Okay, so naturally speaking, we still got this. We've still got this slow. Okay, are we good? All right, I think we're good. Right. So naturally, when you get a Kraken correlation, SMT, you are likely going to have, not in all cases, in some cases, differing lows, because one's going to create the higher low, and one's going to create the lower low, the other one's going to create the higher low. Yeah. Okay, so H1 liquidity pool purged here. What down close candles purged that liquidity pool, right? Which was where the ultimate low, which references the SMT for ES, resides. So it was this combination of down close candles here. Now, yes, granted, this one was the lowest. This one could have been seen as the order block. This one is the aligned candle with NQ. Look at the cursor as I go across, as you can see here. Okay, I'm trying to do it without, there we go, okay. Look at the alignment, okay. That is on the down close candle on NQ. However, this series, so if let's do this. From here down to here, that series of candles here is the high probability order block for NQ, including the wick, right? It's where the market's traded down, come up, traded down some more, then we validated the order block. So that is the order block. This candle here, yes, has a lower close. However, it doesn't breach this low. It doesn't take any liquidity. Okay, that's the important element. This candle did not take any liquidity. This combination of candles took out this liquidity pool here. But if we're looking specifically on the hourly, it took out the hourly liquidity pool whilst trading into the BISI. This candle, the aligned candle here on NQ, was responsible for taking out this hourly liquidity pool and also purging the previous daily low. That's the high probability order block on NQ. So what do we have, and where did I go wrong in terms of the trade? So when we see this up close candle here, this validates the order block on ES. We haven't got the validation yet on NQ, but I have the validation on ES, right? So we're in a pause state with ES. This candle comes, which is a propulsion block. We trade into the previous order block. That becomes a propulsion block. However, on this candle here, this down close candle purges liquidity. That's the high probability order block on NQ. So as soon as this candle validates the order block, we now have validation on both ES and NQ. Therefore, as soon as that candle, this candle here on both assets closed, I was permitted to take the trade on either ES or NQ. At that point, I can take the trade. And that's where I had gone wrong in yesterday's session. I was looking for the confirmation of the propulsion block, but I didn't need it, and I was utilizing the propulsion block as the high probability bullish order block, but it wasn't, because this candle did not take out any liquidity. This series of down close candles did. Therefore, that was the high probability order block. This was the propulsion block, And in essence, all I needed to do was wait for confirmation of the high probability order block on NQ to support the trade idea and justify the lower time frame confluences that we saw to support the trade idea and higher prices. So that's where I went wrong. So that's what I've noted in my notes following that session, is that it's important when liquidity is purged to track the order blocks on both assets. In most cases, we want them to align. In some cases, they won't align. And where they don't align, it's important to track the high probability order block and also, in certain cases, the propulsion block. And the propulsion block, where necessary, should align with the high probability order block for the asset that formed the lower low or the higher high. Okay, so in actual fact, was that was actually yeah, that was actually pretty good. Quite like the sound. I was going to add that to my notes, but in that form. But I think my notes kind of covers that. So I hopefully you understand what I'm saying there. That's the key takeaway, and that was the result of the missed trade. So that's something to work on. I'm going to implement that into the strategy, into the model. So feeling good about that. Shame was a missed trade, but nonetheless. And furthermore, we could have, because of the model that we were utilizing, we could have taken full risk here as well, which is kind of a double whammy, but it is what it is. Okay, so moving on. Let's get rid of this. Get rid of that. Get rid of that as well. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so we got to 3 o'clock. I'm just going to get rid of the London high. We're going to have a look at Friday. Again, I don't typically trade Friday, but let's go to the next session and see what we get. Then we'll clean up our charts. One more session. We'll clean up our charts and okay. So let's head out to the 4 hour. 4 hours is a really good time frame to use, sort of intra-week and all of that sort of good stuff. So we've traded through here now, so let's get rid of that. What we want to do with this is put that here. Change that to okay. We can get rid of those. Okay. So first things first, let us identify from Thursday. So that is, so Thursday there's no clear low. Okay, do we have a high? We don't have a high either, so supports a continuation of higher prices really. We've got no, I mean it's low, really low probability conditions in my opinion. this is just an old high. So however, we do have an upside objective on YM, but again, whether the market's likely to trade to that. I've got no SMT at this CB here. Just want to get the aligned on YM. Let's not do that. Okay, so we can see support there. So confirming potentially further higher prices. May have sort of missed the boat on the opportunity itself, but we can certainly have a look at that. Okay, there's not a lot more to determine there. We can't factor that low yet as a key liquidity low. This high can be used for a Kraken correlation if necessary. I'm just going to change my mouse. I mean, this one that I'm using is my primary mouse, but it's just a bit clicky. Bear with me 1 second. And we're back. Okay, so we've got the London low in here. Okay. And we can reference that on all members, which is fine. Obviously YM trading into that CB. Okay, so nothing else as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing else here currently that supports a model as far as I'm concerned. Obviously we found support here, which is good. I'm just going to quickly check the 15 minutes. I want to see if we have a breaker of any sort. Could I say that this is the breaker here, if we will? But yeah, the market's ultimately supporting higher prices, so we'll just go back out to the hourly. Right, so it's not massively favourable conditions, if I'm being honest. But let's continue our analysis. Excuse me. Okay, so IOF. So clearly we've, well, let's just go back to the daily. Don't like that. Those little things really sort of annoy me. Okay. Go back out to the daily. So we've engulfed this down close candle here, so certainly, and closed above this high. Oh. Hold on. What is? It's because we've taken the aligned low. It's not okay. Fine. Yeah, that's fine. Right. So we're going to be taking some notes from the previous. So relative to the daily time frame, this is currently to the upside. Which has been supported by the high time frame cracking correlation at the lows. Okay, so we'll start off with that. In addition, we have engulfed the down close candle, supporting the idea of higher prices. Now, I don't particularly take order blocks and stuff like that as for how I look at institutional order flow, but it is certainly worthwhile noting them. The reality for me is what I'm going to allude to now: bullish fair value gaps being repriced and rebalanced, or being left unfilled, with the market showing a willingness to reprice higher. Okay, so there's that. Is one element. Sorry, I was just looking at something. There is that element, and furthermore, we're also noting how old lows are being manipulated, whilst old highs are being displaced through. So that to me is a clear indication of institutional order flow still being bullish. Now we want to go and drop to the H4, have a look at what's happening here. Could probably get rid of that. Don't need that. Okay. H4. So relative to the H4 time frame, this is also supporting and in alignment with the daily time frame for higher prices. Bullish fair value gaps being, and I know this is a bit of repetition here, but I just want to make a note of it, being repriced and rebalanced, or being left unfilled, with the market showing a willingness to reprice higher. Okay, so that's clear. So now we want to go to ERL, IRL, and again we may be sort of repeating ourselves on past past notations. That's fine. So here it's not clear for us to this relative equal highs here, so I'm just going to go out to the weekly because it might be a little bit more. Okay, no, we'll yeah, I guess we could. That certainly is looking and then obviously the aligned would be here. Now, do I necessarily think that we're going to drive there? So, well, ES is certainly indicating that, and YM certainly indicating that. Dow's obviously lagging a little bit behind in terms of this high here. Okay, but still key. Just going to add that in. Okay, so following if we're certainly looking at, we haven't traded down into any internal range liquidity pool. That's clear. So following the high time frame cracking correlation at the lows, my attention remains on the external range liquidity pool of the old high weekly above the marketplace as the next high time frame drawn liquidity. Now, if we were to see a cracking correlation somehow at the highs, you've got this liquidity pool here, which is probably worth us noting for NQ. Don't want to get too the weeds, but that's probably worth noting. It's aligned with this. It kind of referenced the point that we're likely to go here. Now, until we see a high time frame cracking correlation at the highs, I'm not looking at internal range liquidity pools as a potential high time frame drawn liquidity. Okay, so we're going to drop down now to the 4 hour. So going through my same process. This is the process that I use in the live markets and trading. So okay, so got a little bit going on. So we don't have no cleaning. There we go. Oh, hold on. That does. Okay, let's just clean this up a little bit. That's that. Okay. And what I want to do, rather, is that's the aligned low. Okay. In actual fact, so we can be more intentional about that. Let's do it like this. We call that the aligned H4. Okay, so we know that this low is with that low there. Okay, so I want to note this because that is technically a, there we go. So SP, I have noted the clean and clear swing points below the marketplace, referencing the previous day's low or H4 aligned low, where near term liquidity would reside. Okay, now it's unlikely that the market is going to trade all the way down there and purge that liquidity pool. Highly unlikely. Yeah, highly unlikely. So it doesn't necessarily. Let's get rid of that. It doesn't necessarily support high probability move. So I'm not going to reference that currently because we've sort of made our move in terms of expansion higher and stuff like that. So okay, right. So moving on, TO. So currently, all members are above their respective true week open, which would support high probability shorts if coupled with a high time frame cracking correlation. Okay. However, other models can support a continuation in price from this location. But it's important to note that a cracking correlation above here would support a high probability short. but we'll need specific frameworks in place to ensure if we wanted to look at any form of continuation higher. So Kraken correlation, we can make reference to the previous day. I noted the higher time frame Kraken correlation at the lows, supporting and delivering higher prices, specifically 2ES. The higher time frame Kraken correlation formed inside the BISI H4. BISI H4 indicating SM validating and using this high time frame discount PDA to support higher prices. Okay, so now we can drop down to game plan. So we've seen support from the BISI. So if we're going to see higher prices, we don't expect to see the market go back down here. There's no Kraken correlation here, so but we've also got to bear in mind that we've expanded quite far for the week, and that we're approaching an H4 inflection point. So number one, depending on so if the market was to form an H1 imbalance, but no asset has yet purged the H4 inflection key price level, this could support a continuation of higher prices targeting the old high and possibly beyond. Okay, so that's one. So if we saw, let's just say this candle didn't really do too much, left an imbalance here, then we get a Kraken correlation at in the imbalance. Sorry, let me just low time frame Kraken correlation at the BISI H1 would support higher prices. Bear with me. Sorry about that. Just ran up the stairs, so a bit out of breath. Okay, so that's 1. 2. If we because of, let's just go back to the high time frame. If we're going to take any short, it has to have a high time frame premise. So this H4 would come into play. Now we're already seeing YM indicate lower prices. I'm not convinced, because ultimately YM traded from this SIBI down into the BISI, rejected the BISI, traded back up into the SIBI, so that's indicating higher prices. So I'm less convinced that we're going to see lower prices, less convinced, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. We could see a consolidation after a large range on a previous day. We could see a consolidation here. That's certainly possible. This liquidity pool has been purged on earlier in the week, so there's a possibility that if we saw some form of Kraken correlation at the high, support lower prices, because YM has not purged that. It's possible, certainly possible, but you'd want to see that rejection then from this SIBI, which would mean that in theory you don't want to see YM purge this high. So 2, if we note an high time frame Kraken correlation at the highs, specifically the old high H4, this could support the idea of near-term lower prices. Okay, so to me, that's they're all plausible. Now, the time that we're in the 6 o'clock candle, so we would have to 10 o'clock. If by 10 o'clock this low is confirmed, and let's just say price is meandering, hasn't taken out this high, but it's just meandering, and then we see a Kraken correlation at the lows here, that could support higher prices. So what I'm going to do, but I've got to be really mindful here, is because this is technically, in fact we're going to use this is technically the London low. So we would need to determine if this was going to occur, the London low would have to have this old low established. Okay, is essentially what I'm saying. Would need to go past the 10 o'clock hour to have this low established before we can utilize it to frame a high time frame move. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And that for me would be model 3, or game plan 3 if you will. So if we confirm the old low H4 after 10, and then note and high time frame Kraken correlation at the lows, this could support an IRL to ERL move seeking liquidity above the marketplace. be okay. So they're the three models that I'm looking at. Nothing else. If none of those three form, staying on the sidelines. Okay, that's how this is going to work. So I'm going to drop down to the 15. I just want to get the equities open in. We don't have any news. I will double check that. Let's have a quick look. Do we have any news? If no, so no news. Okay, so I ultimately want to. So we're on the 15. Let's put in the where the news embargo would typically lift. And this is just going to be a barometer because it starts the trade execution window, so we're going to want to trade up to there. But I suspect that we will see the Kraken correlation at the highs prior to that, so it will give us an idea, depending on how we close above. We'll leave this on the M1. Do we want to leave it on the M1? No, we don't want to leave it on the M1. We'll go to the M5 just because of the time. So let's play it through, and then we will drop down to the M1. So we want to get to the 8:30 news embargo. Okay, so already we're not even there. 7:29. Let's go back out to the hourly. We're going to wait for this hourly candle to close. We have got an imbalance here. We'll stay on the hourly. We want this 8 o'clock candle to close. Okay, there we go. So all markets have purged the high, so now I am anticipating a continuation of higher prices. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll get it, just means something I'm looking at. Okay. Oh my god. So now we just need to evaluate currently what models are still in play versus which ones are out, and so on. Okay. Now, okay, so we don't have that traded all the way down and close that in, so we don't have the hourly SIBI there. Now, if we go out to the 4 hour, there is a framework which we need to be mindful of because liquidity has been purged. Sorry about that. And one of the things that we have to know and be mindful of is the fact that we do have that. Now I'm going to put unconfirmed. I'll tell you why I'm going to put unconfirmed. Because we have taken the H4 liquidity pool. And And although I'm not necessarily anticipating this, and I certainly didn't put it in the game plan, is if we were to see with that there an hourly rejection, this candle, that because that would confirm this as high time frame SMT during this week, that could support lower prices. So I'm just going to keep an eye on on this here. Excuse me. I want to keep an eye on this key price level, and I am going to just mark it in yeah. So just here, just want to keep that as reference, and want it on YM as well. That's a key reference, especially as YM didn't create displacement. Okay, because ultimately for the upside objective, we're looking at YM to continue, and that's not to say that YM can't. That's why I've just put this here as a reference point. Okay, so we're going to drop back down to the 15. Now we're going to head towards obviously the news embargo, and we're going to head towards equity open. So I will drop this to the 1 minute. So we have a 15-minute order block there, which we don't appear, well, we have got a cracking correlation there, but it's not my model, so no need to worry. Okay, so we're at the news embargo now. Bear with me. Okay. So let's lock back in. So we know we've got this 15-minute imbalance here, but I'm not, again, worried by that. I'm monitoring the hourly. I want to see what we do. So we're going to move on now towards equities open. It's our next time frame. Obviously, NQ's trading lower. I mean, ultimately now, it's a case of excuse me, one or two things. We're either not going to see an hourly close below this level. We could see an hourly candle tap into this imbalance, more likely on NQ than ES, and then continue higher. Or we're going to see an hourly close below here, and that's going to essentially tell us that we're likely to reprice lower. Now, if we saw that, hold on a second, I want to see, that was London. It's fine, so London liquidity pool. 50-minute order block. So yeah, hourly order block is fine. Sorry, 50-minute. So let's continue. Does the market find support from the 15-minute imbalance? Heading towards equities. We are 30 minutes from equities open. I've just paused it here a second because we've got this new imbalance here. The question is I think we have got a really small one in here, which certainly could hold. Like so. So we can potentially see an imbalance there. But in doing that, which I think it's unlikely, I'd need to see an M15 liquidity purge, which we haven't seen yet. So I'm not convinced by this imbalance here. I think that imbalance probably just wanted to be repriced too. So let's continue. We're closing in on equities. Equities open. Okay, so that's interesting. That's interesting because it's interesting in the sense that I'd still be favouring higher prices. Let me just put it that way. The fact that we could see NQ trade into, got this key level there. Okay, just want to mark that level. But again, remember, if we see a closure on ES and NQ, and for that matter, YM, below the key price level of what would be the bullish order block, hourly order block, that would invalidate any upside position because it would validate a high time frame model. Okay. Okay, so we are going to continue. Let's just get our charts dialed. Let's continue equities open now. We are less than 15 minutes away. Okay, so first things first, I just want to get rid of that because they've both now. Yeah, we can get rid of. So there is an indication now, if we're looking at the hourly, they've both traded below that level. We could argue NQ's traded, well, NQ's traded now into this one. We could argue, in fact, I want to get rid of that for just NQ, not ES. Yeah, this is still potentially looking bullish. We haven't lost sight. We're still looking at NQ and ES to confirm, and YM to confirm whether we are going to trade lower. But we are at closing in on equities open now, so we want to see how the market's going to react here. Let me just click my monitors. Okay, so let's resume. So here we go. Right. Now this is interesting. Okay. So let's see what happens. We'll stop it about. Okay. Equities open now. So let's see what we've got. We have got an M15 purge here, and we have an M15 purge there. So we're just going to just for reference. So we've got that. I want to drop down to the M5. So we've got a couple of things here. Got this potential, and we can maneuver this with us. So we've got that. Which potentially is that. Now I just need to go out to the hourly to note potentially this. It's not cast in stone yet. Okay. And okay. Again, we just want this as reference. There's potential. Could all change. Certainly the hourly is looking rather bearish. We need to see whether we see support or not, but we'll see, I guess. There. Okay. Relative equal highs. Be interesting. Let's just go out to the hourly. Okay. So we're going to stay on the 5 minute for now. I just want to enlarge this because and we want this as that just because it stands out. And I want that over here as well. I am monitoring YM, but this cracking correlation appears to be between ES and NQ, so we're focusing our attention there. So we're going to stick on the 5 minute. Let's see. Now this could continue lower. Now that is fine, because then if we get to the 10 o'clock candle, it will give us an indication of what is likely to happen. See? So we've continued lower, which is fine. Right, so this is now, in my opinion, so we've now taken this out. Now I think we are clearly bearish. You know, I don't think we need a rocket scientist to know that. Highly unlikely. Let's just get rid of those. But could we see cracking correlation at the lows? NQ certainly looks very close to that key price level. So again, we want to approach there before 10 o'clock because that confirms that liquidity pool. So just to recap here now, what was model 1 was if we got a H1 imbalance. Well, we've invalidated that. So model 1 certainly is not the play. Model 2 was a cracking correlation above the old high H4, which we don't have. However, we do have a cracking correlation potentially from earlier the week where we've got a high time frame S&T. So that still is in play. We just got to change the liquidity pool that we're referencing there. And number 3, in terms of seeing potential higher prices at this BISI here, in accordance to this liquidity pool here, that is still in play. So let's continue. We're going to go to the M15, and we're going to continue on, see what we have. I just want to venture out to the hourly. So that level there, no, as far as I'm concerned, although it's found support at this BISI. Let's have a look. Wow. I mean, what is interesting is, I'm just going to put that back. So I was focusing on that with NQ, but if we focus on that with YM, oh Lord, why won't, better, there we go. So we've got the M15 liquidity purge. We've had that for a while. I still think NQ wants to continue lower, which will change the parameter of the model that we're looking at. But if we look, YM as well has done that. So I'm just going to mark this in on YM, which is that key level there. Okay, so we're going to go to the M5. So that's not the M5 order block anymore. That became here. We haven't had M5 displacement yet. I am going to bring that here. Yes, there's been no M5 displacement yet, so fortunately we've got to wait for that. And this M5 order block is there. Okay. So let's continue. We want to get to the hourly without a purge of the low. Alright, so we haven't got the displacement yet. We need to just let this candle. Okay, so NQ is clearly indicated. It's going for this low. Now this is, we're almost at that 5 minute. Let's see. I think it's going to purge that low prior to, which is fine if we just go to the H4. Ideally we don't want that, because then well, actually I guess it's fine. It is fine. Yeah, it is fine. Okay, let's continue. I guess it is fine. Okay, so it didn't. So that's good. We're going to get a new H4 candle now. As you can see, we've started one. So we can move that. Right, so going back to the 15 minute. Okay. Bear with me. Okay. Right, so I want to, I'm going to stay at the 5 for a second, but I just want to see what's happening with ES and NQ, certainly NQ, which I'd be highly surprised if NQ is not confirmed. Question mark on the end, it's not confirmed. Still monitoring NQ. We also have, can move this down. Okay. YM certainly wants to reprice higher. I think ES does too. So I want to see. I just don't fancy this with with NQ so close to purging that low. It just doesn't seem right, does it? Okay, let's go. See, that's what I was expecting from NQ, and that's why we needed to see that imbalance. Now let's see. Okay, so YM has now purged that. No M5 confirmation yet on NQ to support higher prices, so we wait. That's the H4 high, I think. Let me just double check. Yeah, that's the H4 high. Okay. Let's just go to the M15 a second. Is that clearer? Potential M15 order block here. Order block's already been confirmed on ES. Waiting to see what happens on NQ. Okay, that's kind of surprising. So I want to just drop back out, see what we've got. No, because that is completely, yeah. I really don't like this trade, if you will. Wanted to see NQ purge this low. That would have given me way more confidence into this trade, way more. But how it's currently orchestrated, no H1 purge. Bear with me a second. So yeah, as I was saying, this is, you've got this level here, and I mean, I'm actually looking. I mean, you could even argue that level with YM, and you know, yes, could have framed the trader with YM, but just doesn't. Seems real Friday-ish price action. Well, let's see what happens. Hasn't confirmed this yet. Okay, so I want to see. Actually, here we go. So we've confirmed now this imbalance. And I'll be honest, my real hesitation about getting involved is the fact that despite the others repricing higher, NQ sort of leaving this double bottom just makes me wonder and think that we're about to purge it, and that's my hesitation in wanting to get into that trade. It's as though, I mean, you look at this price action here, and leaving this key liquidity pool here, I think that the sort of crack and correlation could occur here. So sort of keen not to engage the market, and I'm not going to engage the market because I don't particularly like price action. So let's see what transpires. Does it follow through? Which it does. So it should now go. Now we should go and see price seek the highs. So, you know, OB here, OB there. Yeah, OB. Well, we did. We traded through here. Could have engaged the market there. To me, ES was always the better trade option. Traded down. Confirmed its order block there, but there was no M5 confluences. M5 confluence was confirmed here. Yeah, it's just not particularly a nice trade in my opinion. So outside almost of the trade execution window. And look at NQ. And there. Now you can understand why I did not want to take that trade. Because yes, you could sit there and say, okay, well you could get this. No. NQ to me was supporting lower prices and potentially through inducement and various other things. let's have a look at this in more detail. So I want to get rid of the H4. Get rid of that. We've got this high which is formed, so it's purged that liquidity. We've got this H1 liquidity purged. That. So ultimately, bullish order block H1 would be there. Oh, there. I am. That's the high. Let's check the M15. Interesting. We're going to clean up the charts in a second, so just bear with. Sorry, bear with me a second. I've just got to quickly send this this message. Okay, sorry about that, folks. So we have this SIBI M50. Well, it's not SIBI, is it? It's inversion. So let's mark that up. Now, what do we have? So that's that high. Okay. It's going to mark this here. So we have hold on. Appears to be to that candle there. So not clean, but I'm not necessarily focusing right now on shorts. Let's just clean this this chart up, get rid of that. Okay, so we could see a resumption of higher prices now, is essentially what I'm saying. If the market presented that opportunity. Let's go to the M5. I mean, we've got the M5 displacement here. Where is the M15 order block? Maybe we should. It's definitely large. It's just Friday's price action is just you sort of feel like you're always chasing it. I'm not chasing it, but oh god, come on, here we go. But if we look at the M15, we haven't got this inversion fair value gap, so you know it's kind of like supporting this higher price narrative. We want to mark this low. Right now, I think it's just a case of staying on the sidelines. Any move now would occur in the PM session. So by the looks of things anyway, I can get rid of certain things now off YM in the sense that let's have a look. We traded through the, yeah, we can get rid of that. Get rid of that. That can go back to here. So I'm going to get rid of this as well. Don't need that. So hold on. No, we don't have a high time frame premise for shorts. What am I doing? We've purged that high. So no, I don't need to be. I don't want to be looking for shorts. Apologies, sorry folks. I mean, yes, we can keep that in to support the idea of trading lower to this level, but the reality is it's longs that I would ideally want to see. So I'm just going to play this on a little bit, see what happens, see if we get a reject. Oh god, I don't think we're getting any rejection from here. Yeah, so to me there wasn't a high time frame framework in place because we purged the high. Once we purged the high, and there was symmetry. So now if price wants to trade lower, then sort of so be it. But I think I'm gonna go to midday. I think we're just gonna see lower prices. It's not a framework or model. I think once it purged, yeah, there you go. So they all purged the low. So not a framework or model for me. I'm not going to take a low time frame cracking correlation to support lower prices. I need a high time frame framework. So that never came. So unfortunately, no opportunities there. You could argue if we did something here with YM, but no, I prefer that type of thing. I want to see some symmetry between ES and NQ. So a little bit messy, a little bit choppy. It is Friday. We've had a large range week. Looks like this is TGIF. So I'm going to leave this one here. Hopefully you took something away from this. It was a bit more sort of scrappy in terms of price action and so on, but going to leave this one here. A lot taken away from the price action this week, where we've made some good notations, and as I said, hopefully you've taken stuff away from these sessions I have, and you know, I'll leave you guys there and catch you guys in the next one. Thank you.